Okay, we're going to talk today about Strive, ASST. Okay, here it is. Comes out. Big hole to squeeze. Vivek does a reverse merger and sideways merger, and ASST is launched. First thing they do, they acquire 69 Bitcoin via IRS 351 exchange, first of its kind. Then they do a merger with SMLR and they acquire their Bitcoin treasury in exchange for stock. They have no debt. They have 10,900 Bitcoin in their treasury right now. The stock's at 83 cents, down from 15. That's a blue swan. That's what I think is going on. Watch and learn. This is the analysis of the present short on ASST stock. Borrow rate. Right now, to short this, you got to borrow stock, blah, 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 1,000% annually, indicating a scarcity of shares available to borrow. High cost for short sellers. Okay? It's moderated some, but it's still high. So the stock's it's very expensive. The stock is keeping out keeping out new shorts. Stock's placement on the Reg SHO list, okay, indicating potential naked shorting, which is when they short the stock without even buying. They just buy it and sell it. No, without any potential of buying it back. Has fueled speculation for aggressive shorting. Okay, so it's already got regulators looking at this shorting. Okay, the increase from 9 million to 21 shares short in September aligns with the market discussion of pipe unlocks, where the investors hedge by shorting to lock in gains. I think the pipe is part of this, but I don't think it's the whole story. And the pipe is an inevitability. The unlocking of pipe shares, there's nothing you can do about that. It's going to happen to Microsoft, everybody else. All right, here's just some example of the short list. Just go 930. You got the daily volume is 15,000 shares, and the short interest is 15 million. The short interest is 21. So it's let's talk. There's a lot of shorting going on. Pipe and merger-related shorts. All pipe shares were unlocked by late August 25. According to my initial research, there was some discrepancy in this, okay? You got to do your own research on it. Let me know in the comments if you find a different date. Much of the shorting is attributed to Pipe Deal, who acquired shares at $1.35, and they took on shares earlier and sold them at 15 and so forth because they know they have shares at 135 they can replace them with. And that protects their profits. They know they can cover with unlocked shares, okay? Now, it says all pipe shares were unlocked by 2025 in August. I'm not sure on that. Now, just because they're unlocked, that doesn't mean they're all cashed out. Peter Thiel famously kept his Facebook unlocked. Didn't sell it for years or whatever. So, but there's a good chance, they're in business, and this is how you do a pipe, and this is what happens, okay? High borrow rates at 1,000% borrow rate to short, borrow money to short. High borrow rates suggest institutional involvement rather than retail, and I think this is true. Discussions indicate pipe-related hedging is the primary driver. I don't know if that's true. Potentially leading to a squeeze if Bitcoin rally or pipe unlocks resolve favorably. So once the pipes are all unlocked, then this pressure isn't going to be there anymore. And if there's a coinciding Bitcoin rally, well, there you go. Bob's your uncle. Now, there's also the SMLR merger stock for Bitcoin. It's not totally complete yet. I think they got to dot some I's and do some contracts and so forth, and they might be waiting for the price of Bitcoin to stabilize. But there is, and this is above my pay grade, there's synthetic shorts and other things involved, derivatives, insurance policies and so forth regarding that merger if it doesn't go through, or intense financial engineering kind of stuff that Strive, I'm sure, is famous for. They know all about this stuff. But anyway, that again is unavoidable. The short interest in ASST is extremely unnaturally elevated, extraordinarily elevated. 72% of the float, okay, of the shares in the market. Borrow fees are 1,000% annualizing. There's so much shorting going on. There's a shortage of shares to borrow. Also, the hodlers seem to be holding. They're not putting their shares into market. So it's very expensive and risky for new shorts to come in. Unlikely. And the daily short volume has hovered around 58 to 65% trading activity. I showed you that recent trade. When the short interest falls below 50%, that's a switch in momentum. So we're far from that now. Anyway, all this comes together, and there's speculation of a potential short squeeze, where the stock starts going up, and then they have to buy shares at the market to cover the shares they borrowed, and this causes more increases, blah, blah, blah. So one would expect some type of short squeeze mania might come through here, but the stock has declined sharply. Totally the opposite, 83 cents. Risking a delisting notice, although Matt Cole has set aside funds to keep that from happening. I don't know how big his war chest is, but he's evidently anticipated some of this. Likely the pipe, sure. But there is logically there would be the potential of a short squeeze, but the stock is declining. Let's just talk about the CEO, because, his role in this is important. He owns, between him and his wife, 19 million shares. Okay. His, all of his shares are from vesting or merger conversions and so forth. Anyway, no at the market, open market purchases. Okay. So that's 19 million shares. On the other hand, there have been no sales by Cole either, except for a charitable gift to offset some taxes in the vesting and so forth. So no open market purchases, no sales, got a 10 to 15% stake. So he is aligned with hodlers, but there's no activity during recent volatility. Him doing at the market purchases would be a vote of confidence. That is not happening. I'm sure technically they are doing purchases at Strive to support the price of the stock, however. But that's what the CEO's role is. So that's it. No buys, no sells. Big hodler. Now I got my blue swan up here. Anson Fund is the largest identified short with 900K puts. That's 900,000. That's almost 1 million, equivalent to shorting. It's a Cayman Islands hedge fund with offices in Canada and Dallas, where Strive is. Okay, there's a picture of the CEO, Moez Kassam. He's half Indian, half African, I believe. Went to London School of Business. George Soros went to the London School of Economics. Of course, they are far apart in age. Anyway, let me just give you this blurb that came through in my research. Now, this is the highest, by far, the biggest shorter of ASST. Now, this involves Hindenburg Research, which is a shorting firm that was active during the last administration, which, by the way, conveniently ceased operations the day before Donald Trump was sworn in, and obviously destroyed all the records. In the context of the 2023 Hindenburg Research Report on the Adani Group, which led to market turmoil, Adani Group is, I think, the biggest publicly traded company in India. A lot of political influence in India. Very powerful family in India. Kassam Anson's funds, okay, that's his long-short firm, has been accused in court filings, allegedly, of colluding with Hindenburg to short Adani stocks for profit. So what Hindenburg would do is they would have all these yellow journalism reports on the company. A week before they put them out in public, they would contact their paying members, which Anson funds obviously were, give them the research so they could position themselves with shorts, and then they would release their short report and put it all over the media, and the media would carry it and playing into the hands of the shorts. Actually, I think it should be illegal. A lot of these guys are these old short research firms are actually facing investigation by the SEC, and some are getting prosecuted now. Colluding with Hindenburg to short Adani stocks for profit. Separately, Indian political figures, notably from the BJP, which is a political party there, and Adani representatives have allegedly that George Soros invested in or indirectly backed Hindenburg, okay, as part of efforts to destabilize Indian markets and criticize Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So, financial weaponization for political motives. However, no direct ties connect Soros to Hindenburg itself, or to Anson Funds or Kassam personally. As we know, George Soros contributes to many NGOs. There's a big tangled corporate web there. But what's his name? Nori calls it a black swan when there's an unexpected event and it just crashes the market. I'm calling this a blue swan. Okay? I'm coining the term blue swan here. There's a lot of coincidences here. I have no idea. This is what I came up in my research. I did not look for this. This is not my opinion. I'm just restating the research here. But, a lot of things line up here. Anyway, we see that Donald Trump is looking to possibly indict George Soros now. So who knows? Will there be SEC involvement? I don't know. I think the best thing would be to hodl the stock and have there be a turnaround, I would hope. But with $2 billion in assets and potentially allegedly backing from Soros, who knows? Short interest reported bi-monthly, mid and end of month. Next update due around October 31. The positive analyst, this is good for ASST holders. The merger completion, so they do the dot the I's and cross the T's on the merger, and that's a done deal. I think it's a done deal now. I think and again, you guys can correct me on this. I think they still have to do the final paperwork. Okay. The pipe unlocks. We're thinking that settlement could follow at some point. All the pipe unlocks are going to be unlocked. Okay. And they're going to exercise all the warrants they have or whatever at $1.34, and there aren't going to be any more. Okay. And they're going to have made their money, and they're going to be out of the picture. So if we get the merger and the pipes end, the pipe unlocks end, post-merger ASST would hold significant Bitcoin exposure with zero debt, potentially re-rating the stock higher. And that is a big deal. Michael Saylor cannot say that. Analysts note this could force shorts to cover, and especially if Bitcoin rallies as well. So there's a number of steps that have to take place there, but you can see a path to a light at the end of the tunnel. Another positive for the hodlers is a Bitcoin price surge. A 10 to 20% pop could spark buying, squeezing shorts. We're already experienced a bounce off the bottom for Bitcoin. And Kathy Wood and Tom Lee, you can just look at their predictions, Saylor. You know, the stock to flow model, there's just, I mean, unless there's some cataclysm or black swan, there's no way that, you know, there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin. That's it. And there's 10 million locked up with Satoshi Nomura or whatever. And so there's even less than 21 million. So people still want it, and it's got to go up. As I said, you know, in Lebanon, they had no banks, no banking system. Everybody did business. You know how they did it? Bitcoin and cell phones. This is the beauty of Bitcoin. Anyway, earnings or buyback momentum. There was some dilution, and you know, after the merger, they raised money. Now, Matt Cole has said, and in their SEC filings, they do not feel they are going to have to sell any more stock this year. Okay, so do not feel is not definitely will not, but that's not gonna happen. I don't believe. A pivot to buybacks could shift the narrative. So if ASST corporate decides to buy back to prop up the price, which I think they're doing now to a point. I said, Matt Cole has a fund set up to do this. You know, so there are a few things that can happen here. There is a light. You can see a light at the end of the tunnel on this, you know. And these are some regulatory and technical pressures on the shorts. And there's a short sale restriction triggered on September 29th at levels over 700% cost to borrow. You get the 1,000%. Bans further shorting, but this is only session by session. If the stop drops 10%, limiting new positions. So this is a technical trigger, but it does limit shorting, okay, on the downside at these high interest levels. So that's a pressure on the short. Again, this, and at the last look, it was 1,000% annualized fee to holding the shorts is unsustainable. Is Anson with $2 billion and potentially allegedly Soros backing? Is this a problem for him? I don't know. Expect gradual covering if fees stay elevated. So, anyway, with the high borrow rates, limited amount of shares, it puts a lot of pressure on the shorts, especially new shorts. So, anyway. Short reporting, new rules. Okay, so they have a transparency law that's come into effect, which is going to publicize anyone with large shorts greater than 2.5% of shares. I don't know if Anson is larger than that. I think they potentially are. Potentially increasing transparency and pressuring institutions to unwind. Anson seems unbothered. I think there could be some public scorn about this, but I think really what this does is really put pressure on the SEC to act. I think that's what this is. So the borrow fees, the session-to-session restrictions, this new reporting, potential SEC attention, these are, and the other previous things, these are all factors mentioned against the shorts. Now, there's ongoing share sales, and these are advantages for the shorts, okay? 1 million a day via at the market. Now you have market makers doing some buying and selling, but there's still a million shares a day. at the market. Pipe unlocks flood ASST ATM supply. Okay? So again, we got this pipe, this pig going through the python. Nothing we can do. Capping upside, enabling more shorts. So the pipes, they are pushing it, but we have the Anson, the largest short is in the piper. So the pipes at some point are going to, unload everything. So it's not going to be an issue. Got to wait it out, I guess. Lagging Bitcoin performance and high volatility. We have these international holders doing these rug pulls on Bitcoin, and it's just so much manipulation. That's the nature of Bitcoin. It's internationally held. Anyway, seasonality shows a dip in Bitcoin right around now anyway. I think it's bottomed. It is bouncing back from the recent sell-off and that seasonality, so it's presently at 112. It's down from 124K, but it's moving and the momentum is in the positive prediction, okay? So that's working against the shorts. The pipe unlocks are working with the shorts. They providing shares to short. The lagging, Bitcoin prices now starting to work against them. Now, in the broader market, Bitcoin is now tightly associated with NASDAQ. So if there's a tech sell-off, if NVIDIA crashes or Oracle or whatever, then that's going to crash Bitcoin. That is going to be problems for ASST stock. That would be a black swan. My opinion is that AI is like color TV. There's no stopping it. I don't see, we're going through a build-out phase here. It's really going to be the applications. This is early in the party, as Dan Ives says. It's color TV. It's a thing. It's never going away now. It's only going to get bigger and better, and more people are going to want it. Now, this is a kind of a look at when this might end. What is the timeline? The short term, which is really like now, this research is a little old, mid-November. Short diminishing likely if merger closes and Bitcoin stabilizes. Bitcoin has stabilizes. There's been no announcement on the final on the merger. I know that the agreements were reached. I don't, tell me in the comments if anybody has an update on what exactly the status of that is. I know it was announced and it's going to be closed. I didn't see any news, couldn't find any news. It did close. So that's key. All right. Bitcoin is stabilized, I believe. So we're looking if the merger closes. Watch for a short interest drop in the October 31 report. This is critical. If the short interest drops below 50%, okay, it's at like 67% now. Below 50%, momentum shifts to longs. And that's key, okay? High borrow fees could force a 10% to 20% covering soon. So the borrow fees are keeping new shorts out. The existing shorts are paying high interest. They're saying they may want to cover out, get out of the position. So this merger is turning out to be more and more key. Bitcoin, there's a lot of different factors at work here. You can review this at your leisure. It's a complex topic, but there are reasons to have a positive outlook on this. I think we're going to miss this short-term resolution. We're looking at a medium-term resolution now, which is Q4 to Q1 26. Stop post SEC rules, the posting rules, especially if institutional shorts exit amid better transparency. So they're saying these transparency rules are going to report that's going to put pressure on the shorting companies, and I think it grabbed the attention of the administration and the SEC. I think more so than shaming. I don't think these companies have any shame. I don't think they really care about public attention. But I think political and regulatory attention drawn by the transparency of possible complaints to the SEC about these funds shorting, naked shorting, and so forth. This is something that these firms are going to be wary of, these short firms. And a Bitcoin rally, along with this regulatory scrutiny, that's something I think, there's a higher probability of this, okay? So it looks like Q4 25, okay? So we're looking at the short interest to drop. We're thinking that these SEC reporting rules are going to come into play. And Bitcoin, it's likely going to rally. I think Bitcoin's, the stock to flow model, it's just impossible for it not to rally in the long run. Kathy Wood, Tom Lee, blah, blah, blah. So as long as the NASDAQ stays green, I think Bitcoin is going to rally. Now, there are risks. If dilution overwhelms catalyst, if there is at the market stock issues by the company to raise capital, or if the hodlers all dump, or if the institutions dump, if there is a massive pool of stock to short, shorting could persist into 2026. So we have to keep the amount of available shares down. And hodlers got to hodl, So they're talking about, as seen, similar high short micro caps, meme squeezes fizzling. So again, keeping the amount of, hodlers got to hold, you got to keep the amount of available shares down. But anyway, in summary, shorting of ASST is poised to diminish in the coming weeks if merger and Bitcoin catalysts align. Okay? We haven't had the merger news, I don't believe, can't find it, that we're looking for, and the Bitcoin catalyst is starting. I think they both might be related. There might be some arbitrage as far as the Bitcoin price and the number of shares that go into that merger. So we got to resolve that issue, and I think Bitcoin again is going to stay green as long as the NASDAQ stays green. But these high costs to short and the unavailability of shares are already curbing new activity. So I think we're at a tipping point. Could go one way or the other, but there's a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. I think, not financial advice, there is a hodlers to hodl to keep shares off the market is what retail could do, I think, to diminish the shorting. And these other factors are going to come in. The SEC and the political pressure could be the key here, especially with Vivek Ramaswamy involved in all this and having the Trump administration in office and talking about indicting George Soros. So, tinfoil hat, but anyway, that's how it looks. Tell me what you think in the comments if you have anything to add. This is MXUX. This is educational. I do these videos to figure out these issues for myself. It helps me to work through the problem. I'm sharing it with you as an educational thing so you can see I can see what you think. This is not financial advice to buy, sell, or hold any stock or security. Always seek professional advice before any investing, as catastrophic losses can and do occur. And yes, they do occur Absolutely don't forget it.